Dear friends, I am Cantor Sarah Sager from Anshe Chesed Fairmont Temple. It is my privilege to be with you today. We gather this morning to remember and to celebrate the life of one who filled our world with her love, her goodness, her extraordinary spirit, and outstanding example. In humility and gratitude, we turn to the wisdom of our tradition for comfort, for guidance, and for understanding. Throughout the centuries, whenever our people felt lost, adrift, confused, sad, they returned to the wisdom of the Psalms for comfort and for strength. They turned especially to Psalm 121, Esa'inai el heharim, I lift my eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help? My help comes from Adonai, from God, maker of heaven and of earth. Esa'inai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Esa'inai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Ezri me'im Adonai, osei shamayim va'aretz. Ezri me'im Adonai, osei shamayim va'aretz. Esa'inai el heharim, me'ayin yavo ezri. Adonai, what are we, that you have regard for us? What are we, that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to turn to dust, saying, Return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood whither we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted, and behold the upright. They shall have peace. For those of you for whom the 23rd Psalm is familiar, I invite you to join with me in its recitation. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever. When I die, remember me with a smile and laughter. If thoughts of me provoke no love, only sadness and tears, I ask that I be soon forgotten. Give what's left of me away to children and old ones who wait to die. And if you must cry, cry for your brother or sister who walks in grief beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give to me. You can love me most by letting love live within the circle of your arms, embracing the frightened ones. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. I call now on grandchild Stephanie Klaus to share with us a remembrance of her grandmother. Take your time. Take your time.
Good morning, everyone. We all know that Nanny, aka Ginny, loved to both read and write poetry. So I'm going to be starting off by reading an original poem that Nanny Ginny wrote. She wrote this in the summer of 2019, and she wrote it when she saw a rainbow from her room at Wiggins. And so I wanted to share it with you today. I looked out the window, and what did I see? A beautiful rainbow shining down on me. Friday night, June 28th, 8:33. It hung in the sky as we all gazed with glee, each knowing its colors would hang there for free. If only we could just find a magic key, how delighted each of us would surely be to have that rainbow keep beaming with our plea. Ginny Klaus, and it was just titled Poem Number 116. I think everyone here can agree that Nanny, or Ginny, was a true rainbow in our lives. Our lives and the world were brighter, more beautiful, more colorful, and more vibrant with her in it. A rainbow also represents hope, and Nanny was the epitome of that. Hope, joy, appreciation for life, and always finding strength and light even in dark times. When the storm of grief is over, the rainbow on the other side is the blessing of Nanny's memory and the legacy of love that she passed to each of us to pay forward and carry within our hearts forever. I'm definitely not the poet that Nanny was, but I got enough inspiration from her to write a poem for her 95th birthday bash this past September, which was a wonderful occasion. And it ended up being, unbeknownst to us at the time, her last time at the house in Hudson. So what a send-off that was for someone deserving of all that and more. And so I tweaked a few words for that poem for today. So here goes. On September 24th, 1928, a baby was born who turned out to be great. Our Klaus Sternberg family matriarch with a glowing heart and a radiant spark, you put the grand in Grandma and the us in Klaus and created the family gathered here in this house. The world has millions of grandmas, but there aren't any whose family has the gift of you being our nanny. 95 years, what a remarkable endeavor, and we'll carry your love so you'll live on forever. Nanny, your legacy of love is a torch that each person in here will carry with honor, and the light that you have been in our lives will help us weather the storms for years to come. Your memories and you are a blessing. Until we meet again somewhere over the rainbow, we love you, Nanny.
Thank you, Steph. That was wonderful. Adonai, who may abide in your house, who may dwell in your holy mountain, those who are upright, who do justly, who speak the truth within their hearts, who do not slander others or wrong them or bring shame upon them, who scorn the lawless, but honor those who revere God, who give their word and come what may, do not retract, who do not exploit others, who do not take bribes. Those who live in this way shall never be shaken. My dear Bob and Karen, dear Bill and Joni, Sue and Mark, dear grandchildren, dear family, friends, as you will hear more than once today and in the days to come, as friends, family, and even acquaintances recount and continue to do so as we remember, laugh, cry, and feel uplifted by the enduring joy of her. It is impossible to think of Ginny Klaus without thinking of her energy, her vitality, her ebullient spirit, her unfailing positivism and upbeat, optimistic approach to life. It is impossible for many of us to think of her without invoking an image we recited just moments ago as part of the 23rd Psalm. Adonai, God, you prepare a table before us. You anoint my head with oil. Kos rivaya, my cup runneth over. Ginny herself never tired of acknowledging how lucky she was, how grateful for all of the many blessings God had showered upon her, how appreciative she was for the table of plenty that she enjoyed, for the privilege of being lifted up by God's favor and all that she enjoyed in her life. Not only did Ginny's cup overflow with goodness and blessing, she knew it. She never took it for granted, and she was grateful for her abundant life every day of her life. There was something boundless about her from the beginning. As the only child of Manly and Sylvia Burgeon, she arrived at Mount Sinai Hospital on September 24, 1928. She grew up in Shaker Heights, where, with dear friend Beans, Lois Breen, who was born on the same day, in the same place, and almost at the exact same moment, was a tomboy of the first order. They were an intrepid pair. They bicycled everywhere, did everything, and created mischief together. Family lore has it that they would collect cigarette butts, remove the paper, and put the remaining tobacco into their corncob pipes and smoke them. She was bold, athletic. She loved the outdoors and embraced camping with her whole enthusiastic, no-holds-barred, impassioned self. When Ginny was at Agawak Camp in Wisconsin, her cup overflowed. As she herself reflected, my most exciting and fun years were when I was 13 and 14, and I spent 8 weeks at Blue Lake, swimming and port member of an 8-person crew. It certainly added to the mystique of the camp that the director walked around every night with a shotgun to be sure that no boys tried to sneak over from their Camp Kawaga to visit the girls. She had such wonderful memories of her camp summers that for her 90th birthday, her children created a camp-themed party, replete with signs, pictures, sweatshirts, and a welcome banner that read, "Return to Agawak." She would remain an avid swimmer all of her life, as well as an excellent golfer with a beautiful swing, which she learned as a child at the Beachmont Country Club. At one point, she and Dick moved to Walden, where she delighted in teaching grandchildren Max and Sam how to golf. Of course, she delighted in anything having to do with her grandchildren and great-grandchildren. There is no question that Ginny loved to swim and play golf. She adored card games and was an expert bridge, mahjong, and 5 crowns player. When she moved to Wiggins, she added blackjack and Meshuggah bingo to her repertoire. She was an avid reader who was especially proud to be the head of the library at Wiggins, where she ran a tight ship and collected fines for overdue books. As good, kind, sweet, and positive as she was no pushover, not as the librarian at Wiggins, and not years before as a computer programmer and systems analyst at the Arthur G. McKee Company, where the head engineer took inappropriate liberty, which she promptly reported to her boss and simultaneously demanded her own office, which she received. As loving, nurturing, and supportive as she was as a mom, she was no pushover in that arena either, as she maintained certain rules of behavior and expectations, which, as Bob discovered, if one was going to break, one did not want her to know about it. Ginny knew her own mind and, more importantly, functioned according to a very clear moral compass and code of behavior. Long before the Me Too movement, she recognized harassment and sexual intimidation, and she called it out because it was wrong. She was an ardent Democrat and proud progressive because she believed in the absolute dignity and equal worth of every human being. There was no place in her mind or heart for racism, sexism, homophobia, religious discrimination, or prejudice of any kind. As granddaughter Stephanie expressed so beautifully, she embodied the ideal of be the change you want to see in the world. She brought only good, positivity, acceptance, empathy, compassion, and love into our world. Her cup overflowed with goodness and kindness, generosity and joy, as did ours with the wonder of her. Among her seeming infinite interests and passions was music. She loved classical music, which she shared with her father as a child growing up. She loved the theater, shows, and musicals, which she especially shared with Dick. Every member of the family can tell the story of their honeymoon in New York when they stayed at the Waldorf Hotel and saw 10 shows, among which was her favorite, the original cast and production of South Pacific in 1949. In 1966, a moderately successful show entitled I Do, I Do opened on Broadway. Ginny may or may not have seen it, but when I think of her and her deeply cherished relationships, I think of the most enduring song from that show, which she might have loved to sing because she loved to sing. That song was entitled, My Cup Runneth Over, with love. It was written as a reflection of the love shared by two people from the beginning stages to their twilight years. But there is a sense in which it applies to us and to Ginny in her relationships with us all. Sometimes in the morning, when shadows are deep, I lie here beside you, just watching you sleep. And sometimes I whisper what I'm thinking of. My cup runneth over with love. When Ginny finally broke up with her boyfriend of 6 years, at the conclusion of her second year at The Ohio State University, where she studied social work and was an active member of the SDT sorority, her parents took her on a brief vacation to Florida, after which she returned to Cleveland and started dating with a vengeance. There were days, the family told me this, I'm not making this up, when she had a morning date, an afternoon date, and a date in the evening. Dick Klaus's Aunt Mamie was good friends with Ginny's mother, Sylvia. When word got out that Ginny Burgeon was on the loose, Aunt Mamie got to work and introduced her nephew, Dick, to Ginny. In a kind of tale of two champagne bottles, Ginny proposed to Dick, but he had a ring attached to the bottom of his champagne bottle. Ginny knew that he would need something of a push. He was 10 years older than she was. He had served in the Navy and was pursuing his interests in broadcasting. When Ginny told him, I think we should get married, Dick's response was, I can't get married. My mother has diabetes. Ginny was no pushover. They were married on December 18th, 1949. Sometimes in the evening, when you do not see, I study the small things you do constantly. I memorize moments that I'm fondest of, My cup runneth over with love. Together, Ginny and Dick welcomed the three greatest treasures of their life together, as their cup ran over anew with the arrival of each outstanding child, Bob, Bill, and Sue. Ginny was entirely loving, nurturing, encouraging, and challenging as a mom. She was supportive and caring, her children's biggest fan and booster. She was there for them in every possible way as each progressed from grade school to high school to college. As Bob and Bill came into the family business Dick and she had worked so hard to develop, and as Sue found her way into higher education and became the assistant director of admissions for the Lake Forest Graduate School. Her cup kept overflowing as Bob married Karen Singer, Bill found his Joni, and Sue married Mark Sternberg. Ginny embraced Karen, Joni, and Mark as true children of her heart, never as children-in-law. Ginny could not have anticipated how overflowing with love her cup would be when her grandchildren and later great-grandchildren arrived. Jared, who is married to Melinda Marks and who have brought Isla and Xander into our world and this family. Stephanie, with Brad Falcone. Carrie and Adam Scharf with Jacob. Raleigh and Evan Plisner with 3-month-old Rory. Dylan with Hannah. Max with Ken. Sam and Lily, whom I named 24 years ago. It stuck, right? She still has that name. As much as she loved and supported every single member of her family, Ginny could not protect them from grief and pain. The tragic passing of Karen was devastating for Bob, Jared, and Steph, and for the entire family that rallied around them with strength, hope, and love. Bob remarried, and almost inconceivably, Joni Houghton also passed away. As bereft as Ginny felt for her son's sorrow, her cup ran over with love once again when he met Karen Tolhurst. Ginny was delighted as she graciously greeted her. "It is such a pleasure to meet you. I'm so glad Bob found you." Karen has spoken lovingly and admiringly on behalf of all the spouses of Ginny's remarkable kindness and welcoming nature, of how easy she was to have as a guest. Karen will speak a little more later, but Ginny appreciated everything offered to her, including Sunday night dinners with the shrimp cocktails she could never have at Wiggins. It was easy to take her to Columbus, to Florida, to a restaurant, to a concert, and whenever they dropped her off, she said goodbye with the instructions, "Don't forget to call me when you arrive home." And if they forgot, she would always call to be sure. It is instructive of her realistic approach to life that she gave up driving without complaint in the aftermath of an almost serious accident, and the suggestion of friends that the time had come to evaluate her continuing to drive. Ginny understood that she would never forgive herself if she caused harm to another, and gave it up. To the end of her life, she embodied the characteristics that endeared her to every person who knew her. She was always interested in others, their stories, their relationships, their hopes, and their dreams. And she listened, not just with her ears, but with her heart and her mind fully engaged. She was a champion listener, which made her particularly cherished by her descendants in every generation. From early on in her life, Florida was a special, happy place for her and the family. When she and Dick continued the tradition with a condominium at Ocean Tree on Singer Island, shared at first with the Scharfeld family, it was an unalloyed joy when Bob, Bill, or Sue came down with their families, or as the years went by, when the grandchildren came down by themselves for special nanny time in the midst of in the midst of swimming, golfing, shopping, one of Ginny's favorite activities, especially at Giant Eagle, Heinen's, or CVS, or checking out the restaurants. An avowed foodie, Ginny greatly appreciated the good food prepared by others, as that was just not something in which she excelled. She did excel at organization and record keeping. In fact, she was meticulous about it and could find newspaper articles, clippings, photographs, or her original poems from decades ago in just seconds due to her expert filing system. As you have already heard, Ginny's iambic pentameter presence was an essential part of every family occasion and celebration. If she did not recite her original verse in person, she invariably sent by mail her rhymed good wishes for every birthday, anniversary, milestone event, or special recognition. She was the family's artist in residence, their poet laureate, the one who set the tone and tempo of every occasion. She was also the great facilitator and promoter in her volunteer work with the Cleveland chapter of Women's American Art, which she served as president and as the first region president and member of the national board, and as a member of the Young Matrons Division of the Cleveland Jewish Federation. Her life acquired a new dimension in the aftermath of the family's move to New York for Dick's 9-month foray into a different broadcasting market. Dick wasn't happy in New York, so the family returned as he set out to acquire his own radio station. Ginny strongly encouraged him to pursue his dream, and she went to work for the Arthur G. McKee Company to help support the family. A lifelong learner, Ginny had gone back to school at Tri-C to earn her associate's degree in computer science. She also took classes in the continuing education department of Kent State University and Florida Atlantic University. She stayed at Arthur McKee until Dick put together a group of investors and successfully acquired WKNT in Kent that became the family business he bequeathed to his descendants as WNIR, the Talk of Akron. Ginny jumped right into the business with him as she became the Community Affairs Director of Mediacom, Inc. from 1975 until she retired in 2008. She was ideally suited to be the voice of and liaison to the Akron and beyond community. She also helped with bookkeeping and payroll, which were well suited to her meticulous record-keeping and fastidious organizational skills. It was classic Ginny. She not only cheered Dick on, she got into the trenches with him and did everything she could to make the business successful. She was the ultimate upstander. She got involved in the business for a cause, for a friend, for her family, at the center of which was her beloved Dick. For 57 years, they walked hand in hand with love for and trust in each other. They were true partners, friends, lovers, teammates. In only a moment, we both will be old. We won't even notice the world turning cold. And so in these moments, with sunlight above, our cup runneth over with love. It was hard when he passed away, but Ginny never dwelt on her losses, only her blessings, and she knew that Dick was the greatest blessing of them all. She must have wished that he could have been with her to enjoy the continuing growth and development of their beautiful family. It was Ginny's nature to make the best out of everything that came her way in life. So she set about living every day with interest, with intellectual curiosity, with generosity of spirit and of resources for every worthy charitable cause, with her poetry, her laughter, her love. and with the admonishment to whomever was in the driver's seat to put both hands on the wheel and keep your eyes on the road. Earlier in this service, I read the following words from the poet Merritt Malloy. Love doesn't die. People do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. Ginny's cup of life overflowed with love, just as our hearts overflow with love of and gratitude for her. It is now our task, as Steph implied, to continue her legacy of goodness, kindness, positivity, generosity, and above all, love overflowing, thereby giving the gift of her away. Zichrona livracha. May her memory be always for blessing. And let us say, Amen. It is a fearful thing to love what death can touch, a fearful thing to love, hope, dream, to be, and oh, to lose. A thing for fools this, and a holy thing to love. For your life has lived in me, your laugh once lifted me, your word was gift to me. To remember this brings painful joy. 'Tis a human thing, love, a holy thing, to love what death has touched. I call now on family members to come and share some of their reflections with us. Karen and Sue, whatever order.
Good morning. I'm Bob's wife, Karen, and one of Ginny's daughter-in-laws. Last September 24th, Bob and I had the pleasure of hosting Ginny's 95th birthday party in our backyard. It was a truly happy event, and several family members paid tribute to her with all different kinds of happy birthday wishes. Now I am going to share with you a tweaked-up version of my talk that day. There are many stories I could tell about Nanny, but one in particular I will always remember was when she taught Bob and me to play the card game 5 Crowns. For those of you who never played cards with her, let me tell you she was a force. She was not only a great teacher, but she knew the roles, played by them, and was very smooth. When she was ready to go out, she calmly laid down her cards and said, "I'm out." A thoughtful, focused, and cool card player, she liked to win, but was also a good sport when she didn't. We enjoyed many Sunday afternoons playing 5 Crowns with her and laughing together. This morning, as we gather together to celebrate Nanny's life, it is my privilege to once again give her the 5 crowns which made her so special and unforgettable. Crown number 1 was her wonderful sense of humor and smile. She was very witty, loved to laugh and hear or tell funny stories. Even on a bad day, she managed to find a positive spark and have something good to say. Crown number 2 was her interest in others. She loved to hear good stories about family and friends and even people she didn't know. The first time I met Nanny, I was in the lobby of Wiggins. I hadn't known Bob for very long and frankly was a bit nervous about meeting his mom. I'll never forget when Bob introduced me. Standing with her walker, she looked me in the eye and said how happy she was to meet me, and she was so glad that Bob had met me. She put me at ease almost immediately, and I knew she was a woman of style and grace. The 3rd crown she wore was for being such a positive person. I don't think she ever said a bad word about anyone, and she never gossiped. She always thought the best of people. Being our family's poet laureate was the fourth crown I would give her. She wrote beautiful, creative, rhyming poems that touched your heart. And you heard Stephanie read one of them. Even a thank you note was often a poem. Nanny demonstrated love to everyone, and I have chosen this as her fifth crown. It is the most important. She put relationships first. She loved deeply, and in return was loved deeply. We can look around this morning and see the distances people have traveled to be here today to honor her. There are countless articles and books that have been written on how to age gracefully. Nanny could have written a book on this topic. Her optimism, resilience, get up and go, along with wanting to get her hair and nails done in her 90s, was truly to be admired. I'm just going to add this in. I think there was I can remember one particular time she came home from rehab, and by golly, she had an appointment the next day to get her hair done. I was like, this is like unbelievable. One of my other favorite women, Eleanor Roosevelt, said, "Beautiful young people are accidents of nature, but beautiful old people are works of art." You truly were a work of art. Rest in peace after a life very well lived. And I believe my wonderful sister-in-law, Sue, is going to speak next. And here she comes with her bag.
Shocker, right? Give me a minute to set up. Actually, to add a little levity before I get started, you might be wondering why the green casket. A few people asked. Hope this is appropriate. Anyway, it's my mom's favorite color, and Nanny drove around in a car that was the same color, and of course she had to aptly name it Kermit. So this will be her riding off into the sunset in Kermit 2. Okay. Thank you, Cantor Sager, Stephanie, and Karen, everybody for being here today and all of you watching. How lucky are we to have had Virginia, Ruth, Burge, and Klaus in our lives, also known as Ginger, Jennifer, one of my favorites, Virgin, and of course, Ginny and Nanny. Sometimes our Nana Sil would call her daughter Pollyanna. That really bugged her. A Pollyanna is a person characterized by optimism, a tendency to find good in everything, and hope for the best in any situation. Sorry, Mom, Nana Sil was right. And in keeping with the theme of everything overflowing. Oh, this is Ohio State. Our mom and Nanny and Jenny was not just a gal with a half empty or half full glass. She was a gal, as all we know her as, over the top and flowing. And that just sort of represents her spirit today. Okay. Now we begin the celebratory part of the service. This was something we gave her, an Agawak sweatshirt at her 90th birthday celebration. Give me a second. A life well lived for 95 years requires lots of shared memories. Nanny was our cheerleader, our biggest fan, and the consummate camp counselor. An Agawam girl herself, our mom and dad never missed a visit to Camp Adnak for boys or Camp Cardinal for girls. Birthdays were a really big deal. I once had an LSD party, which stood for Let's Serve Dessert, where we all dressed up as hippies, and we were in 3rd grade, okay? At Halloween, Mom was a kid again, making us all homemade costumes and letting us keep all our candy. She just made everything fun. And with a name like Klaus, which sometimes was pronounced Claus, Santa always made an appearance. 'Twas the night before Christmas. I apologize, Cantor Sager. And all through the house, not a creature was stirring except Dick and Ginny Klaus. Our parents' marriage gave new meaning to the opposites attract. Our dad graduated from Heights High. Our mom graduated from Shaker. Our dad attended Michigan. Our mom attended Ohio State. I guess it worked because they set a loving example for us to follow for 57 years. I have to say, our mom was pretty cool. Growing up, our friends would walk into our house and go talk to Mrs. Klaus first. She got to know our kids' friends too, and even won a game of beer pong at a July 4th barbecue. She was the life of the party gal. On Tolan Road, she helped my brothers put together a carnival in our backyard for Project Hope. And before we moved to Larchmont, New York, I spent the summer with my parents in New York City. It was like Eloise at the Plaza, except I was Susie at the Holiday Inn. My mom and I visited all the landmarks that the Big Apple had to offer. And then came the weddings, the grandchildren, and the great-grandchildren, her greatest joy. We all enjoyed those Walden years. The kids learned to play golf, rode around in the golf cart, they played in the pool, and they got to sign their grandparents' number for anything they wanted to eat. Many Thanksgivings were eating Bittaker salads. They even hosted a wedding, I think, called, Club Wed. Singer Island, Florida was the destination for all our families, spending countless vacations on the beach, going to Testus for dinner, the ice cream club for dessert, Worth Avenue for shopping, shuffleboarding, grilling, eating out, and golf. And now the tradition continues with the great-grandchildren, all 4. Nanny never missed a sporting event, a dance recital, a graduation, or visits to all of our college campuses. She'd root for our teams, but only cheered for the Ohio State Buckeyes band. I told you she was cool. In the latter years spent at Wiggins, Ginny found her sorority sisters, her Golden Girls, and thrived. Honestly, she was busier than we were. Even during COVID, when they were supposed to be in lockdown, those feisty women had other plans and secretly got together to play bridge or mahjong. She was the poster child for assisted living. Thank you. Ours was a mom we shared everything and anything with. Updates on the grandkids and great-grandkids and all the ups and downs of our lives. She was an amazing listener without any judgment, just a sympathetic ear offering advice and support, not a selfish bone in her body. What Jewish mother encourages her daughter and son-in-law to move across the country to Palm Springs for a job opportunity? She'd say, "You're only a phone call and plane ride away." To sum it up, as my favorite nightshirt says, it's been worn a lot. It's official, I've become my mother. We should do that in here. It's official, I've become my mother. Yes, my family's laughing. I should be so lucky. I should be so lucky. One thing, hold on, I lost my spot. Many of you have been the recipient of a Ginny poem for a birthday, graduation, wedding, or just to say thank you, and always on the door to greet us at Ocean Tree. So, in the spirit of our poet laureate, I've written a poem from her to us, commemorating this rite of passage. But before I begin, I want to let you know that after her 95th birthday, I told her what I had written. And I said, Mom, it's kind of weird, but do you want to hear this? And she said, of course I do. And I read it to her, and I got her seal of approval. I did this because we tell our mothers everything. And I wanted to know that she had heard what I had read today. Actually, all I kept thinking over there as I was beaming with joy at this occasion was that she would love to be here. Okay, I'm going to end with this poem. There's one thing on life on which we can rely, that all living things in the end will die. There is no rhyme or reason. We don't know the why, but death is not something that we can defy. Please don't be sad. No need to cry. I've had a wonderful life, I cannot deny. It's a little disappointing, I'm not going to lie, that I didn't reach 100, but I sure did try. Even Bill Nye, that science guy, what comes next, he can't verify. Maybe our loved ones greet us up in the sky. If that's true, I'll be sure to tell Poppy you say hi. So live each day to the fullest as the years will fly. Until we meet again, it's my turn to say goodbye. But somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, I'll be playing 5 crowns while enjoying some pie. Nope. Oh, great. This will be challenging.
Thank you, Karen and Sue, for those wonderfully evocative memories of a very special woman. God, you give us loved ones and make them the strength of our life, the light of our eyes. They depart and leave us bereft on a lonely way, but you are the living fountain from which our healing flows. To you the stricken look for comfort and the sorrow laden for consolation. Oh God, we see life as through windows that open on eternity. We see that love endures and the soul endures, as you, O God, endure forever. We see that the years are more than grass that withers, more than flowers that fade. They weave a timeless pattern in a world that is the dwelling place of your love and glory. Please rise. El male rachamim shochen bamromim hamitzei menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina im kedoshim utehorim Kizorakia Mazirim Et Nishmat Hayikara Shalanu Shahalcha Leolama Bal Harachamim Yastireha b'seita k'nava l'olamim v'yitzro ותנוח בשלום על משכבה, ונאמר Amen. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Virginia, Ginny, Ruth, Klaus, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let her find refuge in your eternal presence, and let her soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is her inheritance. May she rest in peace. And let us say, Amen.
Bears should be turning to your left. Those of you driving with us to the cemetery, I remind you must manually turn on your headlight. You can exit to the front or rear of the chapel as you need.